I really appreciate your coming here. I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more in a moment, but I really appreciate Maddie's Fund and Austin Pets Alive and Best Friends and everybody who made this possible. But thank you most of all to you for coming. And you've come to this odd thing saying, wisdom of the warrior, overcoming obstacles. What's that? Well, we're going to find out if this is interesting. And if it isn't, I'm prepared because I brought my vodka. So if things go south, I'm hitting the bottle. All right. So my name is David Meyer. I am CEO and co-founder of AdoptAPet.com. I know that because it says it right there. AdoptAPet.com is a searchable database of pets. If you don't know it, almost 18,000 animal shelters and rescue partners posting pets on the site, 5 million people coming to search for pets across North America each month. They give us their email addresses. We alert them when a pet they were looking for is found. We send out 11 million of those new pet alert emails each month. Thanks to Maddie's Fund, we do free software integration, so whatever shelter software you're using, you can get your pets onto our site without having to do anything. Just have to tell your shelter software and they'll be able to make it happen. And that's awesome. Our operations are funded by Purina, our corporate sponsors, Purina and Petco and Bayer, all awesome people making it possible for us to be free to you and to adopters. We also have strong nonprofit partnerships with Petco Foundation and, of course, with Maddie's Fund. Petco Foundation has funded this new service that we created called Rehome. It's rehome.adoptapet.com. You can refer people who are coming to relinquish their pets to you to go there. They can get their pets onto our site. We give them guidance to try to keep the pet. If not, how to do responsible adoption. They charge an adoption fee and 100% of it goes back to your shelter. And we're raising tens of thousands of dollars for that. So that works really, really good. If you want more information on that, you can email April@adoptapet.com. She'll tell you more about that. So there's another side of me, besides the animal saving side. And that is the martial arts side. Why is this relevant, you may ask? Well, I tell you. So it turns out, I've been doing martial arts for a very, very long time. I've been doing it since I was a small child. I was one of the first Americans to get a black belt in something called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which gave birth to the whole UFC cage fighting world. These are my friends, these are my buddies, these are my students. I have taught alongside Steven Seagal for many years. I've taught Chuck Norris and his whole association. These are my creds. I have I'm current world champion in my age division in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it turns out that there's a lot of lessons in the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that are very useful to life and I have found very useful in advocacy and that helped me create AdoptAPet.com and that I hope can help you be more effective for animals. And I've had a lot of one-on-one discussions, coaching or just friendly consultations with heads of organizations and people running organizations who found these things that I have to say useful. This is my first time, including Dr. Ellen Jefferson, which is why she invited me. This is my first time presenting it in this way where I can't actually talk to you individually saying, what's your problem? And so we'll see how it works. And like I say, I've got the vodka as a backup plan. So I'm going to talk quickly because I want to leave some time at the end for some questions, and I'm not sure how long it'll take to move through this. And I do tend to talk very quickly. So if I'm going too fast, just raise your hand and slow me down, and hopefully we'll make it all work. So before we go further, I want to talk, we mentioned in the title this word warrior. My definition of a warrior, I would say, is a person of action, right? You all take action. So some people are passive, some people sit and listen and observe, and that's fine, there's a time for that. But the way of a warrior is the way of action, making things better. Action to protect his or her family or tribe. Action, and the warrior acts with selflessness in the face of fear. And the reason I mention this is because I count that all as you. That's you, right? You are people who, for one reason or another, have found a passion helping animals, and I'm sure in other ways too. And so you're here because you choose to take action. You include in your family and tribe animals who can't speak for themselves, and so do I. And you take these acts with selflessness in the face of fear, in the face of frustration. So I just want to be clear, and I'm speaking now as someone who has fought full contact, who lives in a world of fighters, of broken bones, of teeth getting knocked out, of blood. There is nothing in that world that makes any of us any tougher than you in this room. I can tell you right now that you deal with things on a daily basis that my fighter buddies could not deal with. So I come with a great deal of respect, and I'm trying to now bring from my fighting world to this world of warriors some of the learnings that can help you and help us all be more effective for animals. So just quickly to understand what I'm talking about when I mean Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so you can get a frame of reference as I talk to you about these lessons and where they come from. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specifically is a grappling art. Okay, so we can add punches and kicks, but we don't. And it's really very similar to judo or wrestling, and we're trying to put someone in a joint lock and make them give up, or they're going to get injured from that, or choke them to unconsciousness. It sounds terrible, but it's really loads of fun. And to the outsider, it would just look like a brawl, but it's not at all. I'm here to tell you it is a very scientific method of leverage and timing and tricks and traps, and it's people who do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu call it the chess game, and it really, really is a chess game, and that's why these lessons come out of it. That's why a smaller person can beat a much bigger person, because it's not about strength or speed, it's about the science and the understanding and the plan and all of the things that will lead to what I talk to you about today. So I borrowed this Mr. Miyagi picture just because it's fun. I don't know if I've dated myself, Karate Kid. That's not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's Karate Kid. But I'm going to try to be your Mr. Miyagi today. Okay? Or my when you can snatch the pebble from my hand guy. But what I want to point out is the lessons that I take from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that helped me create adoptapet.com and that helped me and have helped a lot of people I've talked to in their animal advocacy. These are lessons that work when you are trying to beat somebody who is actively opposed to you and disagrees with the outcome you want, right? That outcome being, I'm going to win or you're going to win. And we can't both win, okay? When we take these lessons and apply them into our animal advocacy, when generally speaking, even if we're hitting obstacles with people who are in our way or not agreeing with us, generally speaking, everybody does have the same outcome. Now, nobody is wanting animals to be, treated cruelly. Nobody is wanting there to be an overpopulation of pets. So that makes it even easier to succeed with these principles, because at the end of the day, the people we're dealing with, even if we're not agreeing with them at that moment, are not ultimately opposed to our success, generally speaking, right? So I just wanted to make that point. So just wanted to give you a second to think about what are the kinds of obstacles that you face in your work, whether it's your work personally or in your organization. What are the kinds of things that block you from being able to achieve what you think is your full potential? Now, when I ask people about that, generally, and from the people I've talked to, there's three areas that sort of rise up. One of them is the obvious one that everyone always says, like, we need more money. Okay? And that's a very real obstacle, right? And when we talk about needing more funding, I just want you to think of that in terms of it is an interpersonal issue. All of these issues come down to interpersonal issues. Money isn't just going to rain from the heavens, right? So if you're going to get more money, it's because somebody, some person who has not yet decided they want to give it to you is going to give it to you. That could be individual donors. That could be a person in a decision making at a grant, for a grant foundation. It could be a wealthy individual who's going to make a large donation, or someone who controls corporate giving. But there's always a human being that is standing in the way in one way or another, maybe because they just don't know about you yet, okay, of you getting what you need in terms of funding. So that's how I view it. It's not a vague, we need more money. We are not getting the word out to the people who have more money to give us more money. That's the obstacle, okay, in terms of funding. A lot of times the conflicts are with staff or board, getting people to agree with you. People want to do something the old way. You want to do it the new way. That's a lot of the obstacles that we deal with, in terms of our own staff or dealing with our own boards. And then the other one that I hear a lot is the public. They just don't get it. People are terrible, and they're dropping off pets, or they're not participating in our programs, and that's an obstacle. But it always comes down to problems getting people to agree with you or do what you need them to do. Almost always. Unless your building has fallen down, and that's the obstacle, you don't have a standing building anymore. Even then, the obstacle now is to get someone to give you the money to rebuild your building. Okay. So I'm going to take you through 10 lessons from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And hopefully at least one, if not all 10, of these lessons might resonate with you and might open your eyes to something that'll be useful. And like I say, if not, we hit the vodka. Okay? All right, so the first lesson, and this one is sort of a meta lesson that informs everything, is leave your ego at the door. And this is actually a picture of the banner that was above my coach's school. Okay, my coaches are called the Machado brothers. They're members of the Gracie family, for those of you who are fighting aficionados. And a great fighting family from Brazil. And there was literally this thing above the door that said, leave your ego at the door. Why? What does that mean to leave your ego at the door in terms of fighting? Well, you walk into our school and you come in and you think you're going to prove something to us by beating us, you're wrong, you're going to lose. And one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to be very upset about that and go home and never come back, or you're going to get very excited about that and say, wow, I stepped into the right school. I've got something to learn here, right? So I learned very, very quickly that when you're facing any situation, the first thing to do is check your ego at the door. You know what? You may not be right. You may feel really strongly about something, but you may not be seeing things clearly. This person who's blocking you might seem like they're just being obnoxious, but you know what? They might have a point. It just helps sometimes to just check your ego at the door, come in with an open mind, and be ready to learn and be ready to adapt. And if you do that, it's interesting, even as I coach fighters. And by the way, there's a big fight in California with 4 of my fighters, and they all won last night. Go guys. Unstoppable. Okay? But even then, I say one of the most important ways to win a match is to not care if you win a match. Why? Because if you care, you get stressed out, and then you get worried, and you start doing all these things. If you can just let go and not care, you walk in just like, hey, it's Sunday morning, you're feeling good, and you win. Okay? So letting your ego, and in terms of our work, in terms of the conflicts we face, just remembering you may not be right, take a deep breath, keep an open mind as you move into whatever situation you're moving into. This really, really helps. Check your ego at the door. Let others teach you. You may not always be right. Although I'm sure in this group you pretty much mostly are. But you may not always be right. Okay. So I'm going to keep a little list as I go down just to kind of, that I can, and you can then download this. I'm sure we'll make it available. But I'm just going to list these. So I kind of put it up as, well, when I feel blocked by whatever, I will leave my ego at the door, for starters. Okay, just keep an open mind. We'll move forward to the next. Okay, lesson 2. Understanding what the person or the entity, whatever is you feel is standing in your way, what they want. Now, standing in your way might be they just don't understand what you need. Okay, so like a funder is not standing in your way, but they've just not heard of you, and so they're not giving you money yet because you haven't made your case to them. So in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the way this plays out is the reason that I can beat someone who is larger than me is I know better than they know what they're about to do, because I've done it a lot of times before. So I know what they're trying to do, and I can understand where they want to go, and I can understand where I want to go, and I can guide them down a path that's going to get them where I need them to be. Now, the beauty in our work is, again, we're not in conflict. It's not going to be a winner or a loser. So if we're talking about a staff member who's disagreeing with us, if we understand what is it that they really want, why are they disagreeing with us? Do they want credit? Do they want a different outcome than I want? If I can just understand what is making them tick, I can think about that for a moment, think about where I want us to end up, and figure out how I can bring them along the path so that we can get together and get in sync and get to where we need to go. And this is something that so many people fail to do. It's the basics of marketing, by the way, okay, of understanding your user, okay, understanding. If you've ever driven down the road and seen a billboard and it's like you can't even read it, you drive by it, the letters are too small, okay? They weren't understanding what you needed. That was someone creating a billboard with thinking about what they wanted to say, not thinking about what you needed to read, okay? Or if you've been on a website and you can't figure out how to use it. They know what they want, but they haven't spent time thinking about who are you and what do you need, okay? So this is all about creating that bridge from where the person is now to where you need them to be and guiding them down that path. And remembering it's not just about what you want. To get what you want, You need to understand what they want and find an intersection. And if there is no intersection, then you have a conflict. That's why we have the other lessons. Okay? So in the case of, for example, a conflict with a staff member or a board member, I mentioned, sometimes the conflict is not about what it seems. Sometimes it's just about someone wants to feel right. Okay, can I help them feel right? Can I say, that's a really great point that you're making, and I've never thought of that, and that's wonderful. And then try to take them down the path to where I want them to go. Maybe they just need some recognition that they're not getting. In the case of the public, I'm sure most of you were there when the gentleman was speaking about his homeless encampment or village, which is wonderful. And his point was trying to be like, hey, don't judge this person with the background in the Mexican gang, right? So sometimes as we're struggling with the public, if we can just understand, well, wait a minute, where are they coming from on this? Like, why don't they spay and neuter their pet? Or why can't they, why won't they do what we want them to do? Sometimes that can actually be answered if we just put ourselves in their shoes for a second and realize, what is it that they actually want? Do they want a little bit of cash? Do they want some recognition? Do they want some free pet food? Do they just want not to have puppies anymore, but they don't understand? If you can understand where it is they're coming from, you'll have a much better chance of then plotting out a way to get them there. So when I feel blocked, I will understand what they want and build a bridge to where I need us both to be. I'll think through, how can I take them down that path? Okay, lesson 3, plan beats no plan. Now, in fighting, the way this works, I'll give you an example. A good friend of mine, a great Australian fighter, his name is John Will, super fantastic coach. And he tried an experiment, he's actually done this several times, where he had 2 fighters who were fighting in a ring, and one of them, he says, right before the match, you know what, get out there and do your best, buddy. And to the other one, he says, I'll give you $50 if you hit him in the nose in the first 45 seconds. Okay? And what do you think happens? The first guy goes out and he's like getting ready and checking and moving. The other guy goes out like, hit him in the nose, and then boom! Okay? So what we've learned from that is, while it's good to keep an open mind, generally speaking, having a plan beats not having a plan. If you know what you want and you know how you're going to try to get it, even if you have to adjust that plan, you're going to be in a better situation than if you don't. So when I counsel people who run organizations about goal setting, because this applies to everything from fundraising, or to, how many adoptions do we want to achieve this month or this year? I liken it to taking a ride in the car, right? If you're in a ride in the car and I say, how's that ride going? You can't really answer me if we don't know, well, where are we going to? I mean, are we driving from Los Angeles to Seattle, or are we just driving to the grocery store? Okay? We also can't say how the ride is going if we don't understand when are we trying to get there by. Okay? So once you understand where you're trying to go and when you are trying to get there by, now we can say, oh boy, we're running behind. Or guess what? We're golden. We're great. We got plenty of extra time. So whenever you're creating a program, or whether it's for fundraising or for any kind of program, you always want to set a goal. Ask yourself, what is the goal of this program? What will I look at that and say, this is what I wanted to achieve, okay? And by when do I want to achieve it? Then you can set milestones along the way to say, well, if I want to have this achieved in 6 months, and this is where I want to go, then I know that in 1 month, I better be here. In 2 months, I better be here. And that allows you to check and then course correct and say, well, in 1 month, if I'm not where I want it to be, hang on a second. Maybe we need more funding. Maybe we need somebody else working on this program. So it allows you to see very quickly if you have problems. Okay? So I think, I wasn't here because I hadn't flown in yet, but I think I heard Ellen spoke about key performance indicators, KPIs. Okay? So that's a measurement. Okay? So don't confuse a KPI with a goal. So your goal, in the car analogy, your goal is where you're driving to, when you want to get there. That's your timeline. And the milestones is, okay, I want to be in San Francisco by Tuesday and Oregon by Wednesday. I'm a California boy, so I'm thinking Los Angeles up to Seattle. Okay? But the key performance indicator is the speedometer. Okay? That's just the thing that measures your pace. So having something that you can just look at on a daily or weekly or monthly basis to say, are we moving at the speed that we need. That's your key performance indicator. And you want to have that on any program, and that'll make programs much more successful. And I could talk forever on that subject, but I'll move on. So when I feel blocked, I want to be sure that I make a plan with a goal and a timeline and milestones. That'll help me understand what's actually going on. And that literally could even be with a conflict with a board member. Okay, we've got a board meeting coming up, and I need this person to agree to this. So I need, by this time, I need them to agree to this. So perhaps by this time, I need to be sure I have a phone call with them. Or, I mean, you could even make it that small. But generally speaking, this is more for larger programs. Okay, lesson 4. There are 3 ways to get what you want. 1, take it. Number 2, put the person or entity in a position where they have to give it to you. And number 3, make them want to give it to you, okay, which is the best. So in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, an example might be, this person has got me all tangled up and I want them to, release me from their legs or something. So one way is if I'm just massively strong, I just push on their legs and you know what? If you're strong and great, then that's good enough. You can get what you want by just making it happen with force, okay? A second way to do that might be, well, I'm all tangled up, but maybe I can put some pressure on the guy's jaw so it starts to hurt. So this person now wants to let me go. Okay, so I've put them in where they kind of have to let me go or something bad's going to happen to them. But another thing I could do is I could offer up some limb of mine and say, look, it's dangling out there. You can take it. You're going to win the fight. And then they go for it and I take it away. And now I got what I want. I found a way to make them want to give me what I want. So when it comes to interpersonal relationships in this way, it's more a matter of understanding what would have to happen for this person to give me what they want. For example, the public. We want people to adopt, more people to adopt, okay? So we can cajole them and talk about how the death rate, and we could talk about, all the reasons we're trying to get them to adopt. But if we ask ourselves, what would just make them wander in the door and want to adopt? Okay? Is it understanding the benefit of adoption? Is it, I don't know, we're offering a free glass of wine, come in and check out the pets? I mean, what is it that would not make it a fight at all? That would just make the person say, you know what, I think today's a good day to adopt. I think I'm going to adopt a pet. That's the kind of things that you want to look for. So when I feel blocked, I will ask myself, what would cause this person to just want to give me what I want, whether it's the public or a funder or whatever? And see if you can come up with an answer for that and see if you can get that to happen. Lesson 5, remove obstacles to the action that you want. Okay? So on this picture, this woman wants this rock to go rolling down the hill. Okay? She's going to have to push really hard, and you get the sense that what is stopping this rock from rolling down the hill is the rock is here and the hill is there, and she's going to have to move that rock to roll. And that's one way to do it, is to push that rock down the hill. Another way to look at this is to always ask the question, what is stopping the person from giving me what I want to begin with? What is stopping this action from happening right now? Is there an obstacle I can remove? Okay, so an example was the government, wanted people to put on seatbelts. Okay, so once cars started making it kind of easier to put on seatbelts, they kind of happened anyway. That actually helped. That was just removing an obstacle to the action that you want. Okay, well, if she took a shovel and started digging out the earth on the other side of that rock and created an environment where that rock wanted to roll down the hill, she may not be strong enough to push that boulder, but she's strong enough to dig a little bit of a ditch on the other side, and the rock is going to roll down the hill. Okay? So when you're facing an obstacle, you ask yourself, why isn't this person, why aren't these funders giving me more money? Is there some obstacle that's in their way? Is it not clear on my website where to click to give money? When you do click to give money, do they have to go through 16 screens? Or can they just do it really super easy? Removing obstacles is really important. With the public, I wish, we try to get people to take advantage of our spay or neuter program. Why aren't they doing that? Well, is it really easy? Is it available? Will you come up and pick up the pet from them? Is it available for them to come to you during the hours when they're not having to work? So you look for what are the obstacles. Why aren't these people just doing the thing I want already? And very frequently you can find things that you can remove and you'll get what you want without any effort at all, or with hardly any effort at all. So when I feel blocked, I will look to remove obstacles I can to getting what I need. Just see if there's environmental obstacles I can remove. And that's very important. And that's really a key tenet of behavioral psychology, by the way. As whatever it is you're trying to get people to do, trying to get people to invest more, trying to get people to eat healthier. You know, you can do all the stuff you want to tell people to eat healthier. But you know what? If menus in the restaurants that they eat on don't have healthy food, they're not going to eat healthier, right? That's an obstacle. They just can't possibly eat healthier at that restaurant if the food is not there. Okay? So it's not always about the person. Sometimes it's about the environment. All right. I'm tearing through these. Just let me know if I need the vodka, because it's so close. By the way, I'm not really a drinker. But lesson 6, use what leverage you have. Okay? So before I talk about the points here, that is an actual picture of my buddy Brian. Brian is a badass. Okay? Brian weighs about 35 pounds. He's one of the most successful black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitors there is today. And he routinely beats people literally twice his weight. Okay? He is just phenomenal and excellent. And the way he does that is by using every ounce of what he has in the right way. So the rules that we say in terms of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu of how to apply your weight, this asset that you always have, even if you're dead and knocked out and unconscious, you still have your weight. That's what we tell people. Use your weight. Find a way to engage your weight, especially if you're a light person in fighting. Then it's even more important that you engage every ounce of your weight. So engage it. Use what you have. Okay? Find your asset and use it. Focus it. So don't just use it generally. How can you take, in the case of fighting, how can you take your weight and instead of just laying on the person, turn your shoulder so it's all driving through your shoulder, okay? Or bring your knee down on the person so all your weight's driving through your knee. It's focused now. And then lastly, put it on the right spot. Don't just put it anywhere. If in the fighting sense, if this person's trying to roll you over and is turning their shoulder, put that weight right there. And down goes the shoulder. And that's what Brian is doing there. Okay? So in life, in working, for example, with funding, what leverage do you already have? Well, you've got great stories, wonderful stories. That's something that's very, very powerful in fundraising. Can you tell those stories? Are you telling those stories? Okay? Keep in mind what I tell people in my experience, what a funder wants, they're buying something from you. They're actually buying something. It's a purchase. They're purchasing a feeling, almost always. Okay, unless it's a corporate sponsor, where they have very different sort of goals that are measurable. Generally, whether it's a foundation or an individual donor, they are purchasing a feeling. And some organizations are really good at giving that feeling, but not really good at actually doing the real work. Those are like the really good fundraising organizations. And then some organizations are really bad at giving that feeling because they don't tell their story well, but they're doing great work. So hopefully your organization is both doing great work and really good at telling that story, which is giving that feeling. And that is engaging your weight. That's use what you have. But it's not just tell the story to everyone. Okay? It's like, where are we focusing this? Where are we putting it? We could be putting it on Facebook if that's where the funders we want are, but maybe this story needs to be told in an email that we're going to send to the heads of all the big businesses around us. Okay? Focus your story. Focus what you have. And then placing it in the right spot. Is it an email? You know what? I've found sometimes it's the wife or the spouse of the person I'm trying to reach. They're the one I want to talk to, right? There's some head of some company and you're hoping that they will make a donation to you, and you try to talk to them and you can't get through to them. But you do a little research and you find out their spouse is actually very accessible and their spouse loves animals. And you go talk to that person and guess what? You get through to the head person, okay? So being smart about using what you have, focusing it, and then placing it in the right spot. Okay, instead of just throwing everything out there. That would be just like me jumping on top of you. I won't be able to control you very well. Actually, I probably could, but just because it's not fair. Okay. So when I feel blocked, I will use what assets or what leverage I have by focusing the efforts on the right spot. Okay? Being sure that my efforts are well targeted. Lesson 7, aim for the tipping point. So in the fighting aspect of this, when we are upending someone, whether it be from standing or in this case the gentleman's on his back and he's flipping the other person over. Okay, we do this a lot. There's that point at which if you're successful and that person is going off balance, the beginner will always keep pushing until they're, and then try to push them into the ground. And then it becomes a big scramble and everyone stands up and nothing was achieved by that. But the experienced person will lift that person off balance, and once that person is off balance and starting to fall, will stop, change to a different move to control them, so when that person hits the ground, they're already under control. Okay? Because they're aiming not for the end result, they're aiming for the tipping point. And that's usually more attainable. It's easier to get. And this is really, really true. For example, if there's a conflict with the board, okay, and I need the board to agree with me on something, okay? Well, there is a tip. First of all, I don't need all the board to agree with me usually. I just need a majority of the board to agree with me, okay, for one. But then I might be able to say, okay, so there's maybe only 5 people I need to agree with me. But if I can get this one person who's very persuasive to agree with me, that person will help me with the other people. So that person might be the tipping point. And that's where I put my effort. I don't need to put the effort across everybody. That's an example of that, okay? Or if we're trying to, reduce raise the live release rate in our community up to a certain point. It may be that once we get to a smaller point, that will start to take on a life of its own, because enough people will be trained about adoption, enough people will understand about retention, that it will start to do the work for you. So frequently, especially when you're looking at a big goal, understand you don't always need to run it across the finish line. You need to just see, is there something partway there that if we can get that far, we'll be over the hump and the rest will take it, and then put all your efforts, get to the tipping point. That's your new goal, not the harder, further goal. Does that make sense? Okay. So when I feel blocked, something seems insurmountable, I'll look to see, is there a tipping point? Is there an easier goal that I can get to that if I can get there first, the rest will become much easier, and then all my lasers go on that. Okay, lesson 8. Take incremental steps. So we're in a society where we like things fast, right? Our phones and everything, information, fast. And certainly in fighting, speed can help, right? And so generally people think you want to remove steps. You want to make something go faster. And that can be true in certain circumstances, right? But when we're actually trying to solve problems, usually there is not a silver bullet. Sometimes there is, but usually there really is not, right? So sometimes putting more steps in, like being more incremental, is actually the path to getting where we need to go. So the fighting example to this is, if someone's on top of me and I'm trying to get out, okay, and I muster all my strength, and I'm just going to, one move, see if I can flip them over. Usually that doesn't work, because if they're good enough to get on top of me, they're probably good enough to stay on top of me, right? And if that doesn't work, boy, have I just exerted a lot of effort. And now my ego is bruised, and I think, like, I'm never going to get out of here. It didn't work. That was my best shot. But if instead I said, well, wait a minute. This one arm is free. Can I get that arm into a better position? Oh, that's good. Well, now my arm is there. Can I get my shoulder out into a better position? Now that I'm here, can I back up a couple inches and get my knee into a better position? So incrementally, you can get out of bad situations, and even in positive situations. If you're trying to make a positive goal, to be able to understand it incrementally, we say in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we say, my grandmother could climb to Mount Everest if you put in enough small steps. Okay? That's how you can achieve amazing things, with a series of small steps. Repeat. Okay? So look for how you can get what you want in incremental steps. Small steps are safer. So as opposed to, we're going to launch a big program and we're going to spend a lot of money on it, and then we find out it doesn't work and we just wasted that money. Could we launch a really small test of that program? Okay? There's something called the lean startup methodology that we use in our software development. Okay? And very super duper summary. Okay? One way to build software or do any program would be Think of what you want, decide ahead of time what you want, spend a lot of time building it, pay a lot of money, throw it out there and hope it works. And if it doesn't work, shoot, we just spent a lot of money. It's not working the way we wanted. Okay, the lean startup way to do it would be to say, I have a hypothesis that this thing is going to work. What is the least amount of work I can do to test that hypothesis, to get a sense of, yeah, this is going to work. Okay, I think this is worth pursuing. Do that least amount of work. It's called creating a minimum viable product. We call it MVP. And if that works, then you build that, you measure it. You get someone to use your terrible little version of your product, and then you learn and you move forward. And you build, measure, learn. And that way, you don't waste time and you don't waste resources. And this could be true of a big program or anything that you're going to embark on. Taking small measured steps is a great way to go, and it's less risk. So if you stepped in the wrong direction, it doesn't work, no harm done. Okay, in the picture here, that's how you would cross a stream, right? You wouldn't try to cross a stream in 1, 2, 3 jumps. You try to find an area where you can take small, careful steps and whoop, that rock doesn't feel good. I'm going to back up and move over here. That's the way great things tend to happen, in small measured steps over a period of time. So if I'm feeling blocked, I will look for incremental steps that I can be taking for success. Is there something smaller that I can learn from? And I should say about that Australian guy I mentioned, who's the mean guy who told the other guy to punch someone in the nose, John Will. He really teaches his students that, this 5% rule when you're in a bad situation. I can't get out of this situation. Maybe we're in debt. Maybe we have a problem. I can't get out of it today. Can I make it 5% better? Can I do that today or this week or this month? If I can, great. You know what I'm going to do next month? Make it 5% better again. 5% better again. Repeat, repeat, repeat. You're out. Okay? And that's true with making money. That's true with getting out of debt. Don't try to win the lottery to get out of debt. Make your situation 5% better, 5% better, 5% better. Lesson 9. That's my buddy Kurt on the bottom there. Find places to rest without having to give up. Okay, everybody knows about compassion fatigue, right? Because you're all feeling it probably at the moment. So, and it's a real thing. And you know what? Sometimes you just have to give up, or sometimes you need to, just leave the movement for a while. But that's not really going to help you, and that's not going to help animals. The best thing in the fighting aspect here, you're out of breath, you're tired, you're down on points, you can't escape, you're claustrophobic, everything is going wrong, right? And you have to, as a fighter, find an ability to push through those moments. Maybe you're not going to win the fight at that moment, but just don't lose at that moment. Can you find a place where you can safely rest and then recover enough to continue? And that's all true for all of us. How do we find moments of rest? Even if we're not getting what we want, how can we find moments of rest? Can we just take a weekend? Can you shut off the damn phone just for a little while? Will the world end if you do that? Can you take a small vacation? Can you ask someone else to handle the crisis calls for you just for a little bit? Can you treat yourself to a massage? I asked them here if they'd give me, they said, do I need anything for this seminar? I said, can you give me a deep tissue massage? Apparently no, but you can ask, okay? But you gotta, that's part of winning, okay? Part of winning is sometimes you just need to just pause and recharge. And if you can find ways to recharge and not exit the game, that's the way to go, okay? That's a sign of a champion, okay? Who is in a bad situation, who can, without losing, rest and then recover and then try again. So when I feel blocked, I will find a way to rest if needed without actually giving up. I'm just resting. I'll be back. Okay? And lesson 10. Another meta lesson. Let go of what you can't control. Okay? So we say, sometimes you just can't get what you want, and you can be upset about it, right? We say in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is a closed hand is a closed mind. If I'm gripping someone's wrist, and I really want that arm to move over here, and I'm just gripping as hard as I can, and I'm pulling, and I'm pulling, and I'm pulling, I may not be realizing that, well, maybe I could just take this arm. Maybe the arm was right where I needed it to be, right? But sometimes where I just have a closed mind, I want this, I want this, I want this, and I'm not open to what the real possibilities are. If you'll let things unfold, a new path will reveal itself, okay? Change your position. If I'm seeing an obstacle here, what if I'm here? Does the obstacle look the same? Ooh, I see an opening, okay? So changing your position, being willing to just take a step back, keep an open mind. I call it with my students, trust the river, okay? It's like you're going down a river and you can only see the next bend in front of you, and you're in the rapids and life is hell and this fight is not going well, or this program is not going well, and all I can see is but you know what? The river's going to bend, and there may be a couple more turns with rapids, but it's going to smooth out, right? So just trust. Just let the river take you. You've been fighting it for a while. Let the river take you. And this is true in your personal life too. Have a little faith. The river will take you to a good place. Just stop fighting the river. Trust. A new position will open up. A new opportunity will open up. Maybe that funder left you. A new funder will show up. Maybe this person quit. A new good person will arise. Just give it a little time. Let go of what you can't control. Okay? So, when I feel blocked, I will, if nothing else is working, let go. And just say, you know what? I'm going to trust the river, and I'm going to see this problem for a new position, and new opportunities will open up. So just to wrap up real quickly, I want to say a couple personal things. And you guys have been super patient. I really appreciate it. You'll have to tell me if I should hit the vodka or if this was even remotely useful, but hold on. Okay? So when someone is coming into a school that I train at or a seminar, the fact that they are there just means they're going to get better, okay? If you are willing to learn, you are getting better, you will not be stopped. You are here, right? If everything was good enough for you, you would not be here. If you just thought everything is great, you wouldn't be here. You are here because you are smart enough to say, I want something better for the animals. I want something better for my organization. I want something better for me. The fact that you are here, that you have put yourself on a path, so long as you remain on that path means you won't be stopped, because you will continue to learn. Even if you're blocked, you will never be stopped if you stay on the path. A black belt is a white belt who never quit. That's it. Some people can do it in 5 years. Some people it takes 50 years. A black belt is a white belt who never quit. And you guys are on that path, and that's amazing to me that you care, and that's why I know we're going to reach no kill. I'm positive about it, because people are saying where we're at is not good enough, and so we will continue on the path. You're never alone, okay? My fighters who fought last night, I couldn't be there with them, but they don't need me to be there physically in their corner. They know I'm with them. They know all of our team, when they walk into a fight and there's nobody else on the mat but them and the person that they're going to fight with, they're not alone. They've got me behind them. They've got my coaches behind them. They've got our trainers behind them. They walk in there with an army behind them, and they are confident, and they know that. And that's true with you too. You have your organizations. You have all the people in this room supporting you. You have people you may not even know who in the public who care about you. You're never alone in what you're doing. Remember that. Remember that you have all of this effort that you've put in. It stands with you in every moment. It backs you up in every moment. That's why we'll succeed in what we're doing. And the last thought I just want to share with you is about my gratitude towards you. So I run this thing called adoptapet.com, okay? I created it. I've spent 16 years working on it. I think it's cool, right? Millions of adopters and hundreds of thousands of adoptions coming through, and millions of emails and all kinds of stuff that I hope has been helpful. Groups tell me it's helpful for them. I hope it's helpful for you. It's wonderful. I got 30 people working with me. I've got designers. I've got engineers. I've got shelter outreach people. All of them, right? In our capacity in adoptapet.com, we don't touch a single animal, right? I don't deal with parvo. I don't deal with animals tossed out of cars. I heard someone just talking about it today. You guys, I'm in awe of you, okay? This is coming back to what I'm saying about you being warriors. You are amazing. You are the people who are dealing with the serious problems that I could never deal with. We're in this as a team. So I just want to express my gratitude that nothing I have done or can possibly do will have any effect without you doing the real work. You're doing the adoptions, right? You're dealing with it. So I hope that you realize that and understand that we're in a partnership, and everything that my organization, that I do, is to empower you to be more successful to help animals. That's what we live for. That's what I'm here for, and I just want to thank you so much.